Welcome back to another episode of Crop Walk Wednesday. So I'm down here in one of our spring barley fields. This one is the one we ploughed, disked once and sowed with the Earth Agri Seeder, which is a disc drill. It was sowed around the 19th of April, and as you can see it's really starting to turn there now. So the variety in here is Geraldine, who's like the only one we could get, but it's a lovely even crop, as you can see, and there's a few spots where the heads are really starting to crank down, so we're looking for a bit of dry weather and heat, but it looks like the weather for next week is gonna be warm and dry, so I'd say we'll be in here combining in just over a week, probably 10 days. And yeah, it's kind of annoying though, we're looking for a heat and dry down here, but then our beet and our baby leaf and our grass is looking for a bit of rain, but it should all work out. This field is looking really nice, so should get a good crop of barley off of it in about 10 days time. But we'll go look at the mini tilled barley after I show you the grain. So as you can see there, the grain is a nice colour, plump enough, probably not the plumpest grain in the world, but for the year that's in it and how late it was sown, it's not doing too bad at all. I don't know if the microphone can pick it up, but I can hear the barley crackling. That's how you know it's really starting to dry out here, but yeah, it's not looking too bad at all now. So we'll go look at the mini tilled barley. So now I'm down here in our mini tilled spring barley. So I don't know if the camera picks it up as well, but I'd definitely say this field is a little bit greener, so it's probably gonna push our harvest date back a little bit. But I'd say this field will probably be crimped and the other field will be our dry grain. We want about 30 or 35 tonne of crimp this year. We did 26 tonne last year, so if we cut this field a little bit early, it doesn't really matter too much, it'll be alright. The main thing is that it's mature enough that the straw is good and dry, because if you cut it too early, the straw won't be quite dry and it'll heat. So we want to try avoid doing that, but it's not looking too bad. It's definitely come on. I'm actually quite impressed by this crop, because early on it didn't look too great. It's definitely a little bit thinner, but for the cost that went into it, it's really not looking too bad. And just like the other field, it's a good consistent one. There's no highs or low spots in it, and the heads are just starting to crank over. But the grains per head by 24 to 28. I have seen the odd 30 in it, but yeah, it's not too bad. And grain fill in here is, I'd say, nearly better than the other field. I'd say it's a plumper grain in here than the ploughed field, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the fields do over the weighbridge, but they're not looking too bad now. Hopefully be in here in 10 days time cutting it. So I'm now here in our arable silage. So this is our wet corner of the spring barley field, and it's actually not very wet at the minute, it's quite dry, so hopefully we'll be able to get the big trailers in here and lift it. When we sowed it, we said it'll probably have to be baled because the heavy trailers would only rut it, but it's not looking too bad. The oats is a good height, like, I don't know, 4 foot, 3.5 feet. The barley's short enough in it, but there's a nice head on it, surprisingly. And the peas are filling well. I'll get a pod. That's probably not the fullest one. I could find a better one, but like, it's getting there. And yeah, the grass has just about started to die out in it, and clover's starting to flower. Everything's just coming in nicely now, so we're gonna try get this out before spring barley, because there'll be a mad rush on for contractors and it'll just be a pain if we're trying to do everything at once. So probably, if I'm saying 10 days to 2 weeks for the spring barley, this is probably a week to 10 days and we'll be at second cut silage and arable silage. So we've 30 acres, or not quite, 28 or 33. We've to decide on the third cut clover if we're going to mow it with the pit or not. It's looking like we probably won't, it just hasn't jumped out of it as much as we expected, so probably 28 acres of second cut and arable to come in, but we'll have a nice bit of stuff after that, and then we've got our 8 acres of maize to come in, so that actually moves me on quite nice. We're going to go look at the maize next. I won't bother showing you the second cut silage this week because it's done feck all since last week really, so we'll go look at the maize now. So we're now up here in our maize that was sown under biofilm, and as you can see it's good and tall. I'd say it's taller than our maize last year, and the cobs have really grown quite a bit in the last week, and that's the most important thing now, is the grain fill and how the cobs fill. So that's what the cob's looking like this week. I kind of forget how small it was last Wednesday, but you can go back in the videos and look at it and see, because I did hold up one last week. But at the minute we've got 2 cobs on every plant, and if it has enough time, some plants will get a 3rd cob. Like there's one beside me that'll get a 3rd cob. And yeah, the most important thing now is the cobs. If you've a tall crop of maize, it's no good without the grain. So we'll go look at the open maize now and see the difference. So now we are out here in the open maize. This is DLF Resolute, and what's under the biofilm is Resolute as well. So they're the same variety, sown the same day, everything's the same, just what's there was under biofilm and here is open. And then further over the field we sowed DLF's Prospect, and the open maize got sprayed for weeds, so it's a hell of a lot cleaner than the other maize. And this open maize also got a foliar feed just to push it on, but as you can see it's a decent height. It's not quite the same as the maize under biofilm, and the odd open plant is starting to tassel. I'd say by next Wednesday there'll be a lot of tassels around. You probably can't see any on the camera at the minute, but I was walking around and I saw a few. So obviously this hasn't tasseled yet, so there's no sign of any cobs on them, and it'll probably be 2 or 3 weeks before we see a cob. But yeah, it's not looking too bad now. It'll be interesting to see how much later we are harvesting, because our plan was to get winter barley in after the maize, but depending on when this is harvested we mightn't get winter barley, but we'll do our best. But that's enough on the maize for this week, so we'll probably go look at the 3rd cut clover silage or the beet next. So this week with the beet, we're not going to go up into the field, we've just pulled a few and we're going to weigh them instead. So the beet here on the left was sown 10 days later than the beet on the right. So the orange beet is jamming, and then the yellow one's Bolero, and then Delcante, and then over there Bolero, Delcante. So with 3 of the older beets weighed with the tops on is 7.4 kilos, and I will weigh some of the younger beet and see how much lighter they are. So the 3 younger beets with the tops on are 3.8 kilos. So there's a fair bit of a difference between that. Looking at them, you wouldn't have said there was that much of a difference, but that weighing scales isn't lying. So yeah, nearly 4 kilos in the difference. So we might do this again next week and we'll see how much the beet grows in a week. But that is everything about the beet this week, so we'll go look at the third cut clover silage. So we are now here in our third cut red clover silage field, and there is a savage amount of clover in here. It's pretty much everywhere in the field, but it's still a bit short. Unless this jumps out of it in the next 10 days, it'll have to be left for bales, which isn't the end of the world. I would have liked to put it in the pit, just would have been nice, but would have brought us up to a 33 acre second cut, but we'll be back down to 28. So sure, look, what can you do? We've done what we can. We tried to cut it a bit earlier to get a nice third cut off it, but don't get me wrong, there'll still be a nice third cut off. It just won't be in the pit, it'll be in bales. But that's about it. We're gonna do one more thing. We're gonna go down the bottom there and get a fork and dig up a bit of the clover and show you how it fixes the nitrogen into the ground. So we're now down here at the bottom of the field, and we're after digging up some red clover, and we're going to show you the, what are they called? Nodules vein?
Yeah, nodulation, yeah. And the taproot.
So obviously that's the taproot there, and then all these little white specks are the clover fixing into the soil. So that's feeding all the grass that you can see.
Here, look, there's even better.
So all the little white specks, there's loads of it there. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick it up, but it's all over it. So that's the clover obviously doing its job, because you can see the field is a lovely dark green and all the grass is there. This is probably 3 weeks away from mowing. Just not gonna line up with the pit silage, but it'll be a lovely crop of red clover all the same. That is everything for this episode of Crop Walk Wednesday. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comments, and I will see you on Saturday, where we're actually mowing this field for second cut clover. So I'll see you in the next one.